Hello, Commanders. Welcome to another day in Star Trek Fleet Command. I hope you're all doing well, and I hope that you had a fun incursions, whether that means you took time off or you pillaged, plundered, and raided your guts out. Our server, we didn't win, but I thought I would pull it up really quick here to give kudos to everyone involved. Good job, Genesis, server 24. You beat us by a pretty good margin, I would say. Wasn't a complete blowout, but good job. Unfortunately, I think my server spent a lot of time defending, where we had people that left bases in territory or were unshielded, or they'd come in and they would do some raiding and forget to go back into a shielded territory or whatever. So rather than spending time raiding, we spent a lot of time defending. So it is what it is. We'll learn, we'll regroup, and we'll do better next time. I think we've won most of the time. Good job. Good job, y'all. Okay, so I wanted to get into today's video talking about planning and looking forward. The importance of looking forward in this game. Before we hop into that, if you're new and you haven't done so already, we just passed, I think, 850 subscribers, so almost to the goal of 1,000, of 150 to go. So if you're new or you haven't subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps to grow the channel. Hit that like button and hit the bell notification so you're aware of future content. Want to kind of talk about this. I think it's something that you veteran players will know a lot about, and I'd love it as you watch the video to leave a comment below if there's something that I haven't touched. It's hard to speak from all point of views in a short video, right? But I do try and make it applicable. But I think it's important. I remember in my early days that when I first started playing this game, that I would basically raid until I got enough for one upgrade, and then I'd upgrade it one thing at a time. And I didn't do so well, as you can imagine, with the spend events. They have more and they're harder to complete, I think. So the importance of saving and planning ahead is all the more important. So let's talk about that a little bit. I want to start from a lower level perspective. And even though some of you watching this video may not quite be at this level, I think it's a good concept that hopefully you can take and apply in your game no matter what level you are. I think after you pass, it seems like it has been like this for a while, and I don't know if you are around this ops level, you can let me know, but it seems like when you get to level 40 and above, that competing for the material spend events to get officer shards during an arc, which is typically the Saturday weekends, once you pass ops level 40, seems to get a lot harder. So in one way, I'm glad they've come out with these milestones where you can actually unlock the officer if you get enough. Used to be back in the day where they only had, you had to place an event to get any shards whatsoever. So sometimes you would spend an event, but get nothing, absolutely nothing. So that's better, but it's still tough to complete. If you're a big spender, it's not a big deal. But from like a free-to-play or mostly free-to-play perspective, I think it's hard. I've had a couple of comments on some of my videos where I can tell people are like, I'm just never getting officers. I just take that as an assumption. So hopefully this video can help you think about things going forward, because you really have to be, I would say, thinking 4 to 6 or more operations level ahead planning-wise. Especially when you get to higher levels, you have to really be thinking about what resources and specifically what materials you're spending on your various things you're trying to do in the game. For me right now, it's crazy expensive for the components on my ship, so I'm finding that a little bit harder to deal with. I've been working on my monovine to really try and keep up with that. But also working on base upgrades. So you kind of have to think about your ships, your base upgrades, and research as probably your biggest things that you're kind of thinking about. as far as spending. So as an example, let's hop into STFC.space. And remember, in STFC.space, it is base cost, so it's not counting research. So if you've got research, then it's going to reduce this cost, obviously. I do plan on coming out with a video that will help with that planning aspect of it a little bit better later. But from this standpoint, just to give you the idea, right? Because I can't talk from every single person's perspective. I just don't have a video that's long enough to go into that much detail. So I'm going to give you the idea of what to think about talking about the Epic Ops Level 34 ships, and just to give you an idea of how you can approach it. And hopefully you can take this, look at STFC.space yourself, and kind of do some planning going forward. I think that's really important. Okay. So let's hop into it. Let's talk specifically about materials. I won't talk so much about resources or ship parts, but specifically let's look at the materials. So the Enterprise right here, and we're just using base numbers here once again, but the uncommon gas, and we'll specifically focus on uncommon, even though there are rare. There's rare here as well. And common is, something that you get over time, or you can spend Latinum on for some of these. But uncommon, 51,000 uncommon gas. And what else takes gas in the game? There's obviously research, but thinking about your station, you're going to have your defense platforms, you're going to have your research and development. What takes ore? Your operations building is going to take ore. Your academy is going to take ore. So things like that. But okay, so you're thinking about, okay, I've got gas and ore here, primarily gas, and it takes a lot of gas. All right, let's switch over to the auger. And all of these, by the way, have 180,000 credit costs. So Federation obviously taking Federation, the Enterprise taking Federation credits. The auger here is a Romulan ship, so Romulan credits, and we'll look at the D4 right after this. So with this ship, it's a battleship, which is typical. It takes a lot of ore, and then it's also taking crystal. So your two components here are ore and crystal, with ore being the primary one. Okay, let's look at the D4, 180,000 Romulan, or not Romulan, I'm talking and thinking about the auger still. The D4, okay, so the D4 takes 180,000 Klingon credits, and what are the materials that it uses? Primarily, it takes crystal. So 46,400 base cost, and then it also takes gas, 15,000. So when I was at this level, I think my first ship, just because I had the credits for it, wasn't that very good of a planner then, was the auger. I ended up getting the D4 last, even though no others had gotten it first. And the reason why is this right here. And I believe the cost for all of these G3 miners are the same. But you've got the blueprint total cost 15,000, which isn't that much to me, but I know for different people, different levels, that it can seem daunting. In my day, you had your dailies, if I remember right, your dailies, and what else? Your dailies and missions that you would run for those. And there's a lot more options for getting credits nowadays. So what does this take? Well, this is part of the big reason why I didn't do the D4 right off the bat, is because it takes a lot of crystals. So each one of these, there's three ships, one for each faction, and they take a lot of crystal. And so you have to think about that. So what are some things that I think you should kind of consider when you're looking at these? Ultimately, sometimes it's not just about the materials that you're using or being most efficient. Sometimes you do what's fun. And so if that's you, I get it. You might want to go for the D4 because it's fast, it's zippy, it moves, okay? So compared to the other two ships, it's an interceptor, it's going to move fast. The auger is nice because it has a lot of hull health. Some people like battleships for that reason. In armadas, it can take more damage. The Enterprise has good shields, and it actually does a really good job. A lot of people like the Enterprise. I personally got it. Why? Because it's the Enterprise. I joined or started playing this game to get the Enterprise, and so that's why I got it. That was my determining factor. But here you can really kind of get yourself in a bind if you get the D4 and start leveling it up, and then you're like, oh dang it, I don't have enough to tier this Antares or one of my faction miners. What am I going to do? Okay, so you kind of have to be careful, and you might get yourself in a tough bind there. And so that's the whole idea or concept here, is that different ships are going to take different materials. You're going to have to decide how to allocate your resources, and the only way to do that is to actually sit down, think about it, and do some planning. Now, you may not be the type of person that likes Excel spreadsheets, and I get that. I don't always put an Excel spreadsheet together for every single thing I do in the game, but it can help to kind of organize your thoughts a little bit. So if you're into that, I would definitely recommend putting some of these down. You can also talk to people in your alliance and get advice on what they did or what they found successful. Chances are, if you're coming up and this, like I said, once again, this isn't just G3, but this can go to G4 and G5. But what are you going to plan on? Are you thinking far enough ahead? 4 to 6 operations level at least, I would say. Once again, that you want to think ahead. You want to think, what's my next warship going to be? What's my next survey ship going to be? My next miner? Because as you go up in level, as you go up in reputation with your factions, things are going to get harder for your dailies. You're going to have to hit the higher level hostiles. You're going to have to mine more. You may have to get farther out into space to be able to do that mining. And so you kind of have to think about all these things as you're going forward. One example I can show you, I go here to the rare. Oh, sorry. I've been looking at the Sanctus. And one of the big things that I'm struggling with, I'm still trying to get the operations level. I'm 1 operations level away, but I've still got docks and defense platforms and other things inside my base to do still. So it's probably going to take me a little bit. But I looked at this and I said to myself, okay, this is the next one I want. I looked at all the rare ships, and you can actually go here to ships, and you could, without typing in a name, you could say, okay, let's just do all G5 rare ships, and I can look at 1, 2, 3, and I can determine which one I think I want the most. I looked at their abilities, and I decided, you know what, I want to go for the Sanctus. And so that's the one I'm working on, and I have just gotten enough faction credits to be able to buy these outright. Unfortunately, these G5 ships are not in the Away Team store, so I can't count on that at this point to plan for that. But I've been saving my Rhineland credits as much as I can, focusing on the things to get me that. And I've been focused on this for multiple levels now because I knew this was coming. I knew this cost was coming, and I wanted to be ready. So when I was ready to go to Operations 56, that I had the ability to do so without hindering myself. And what I mean by that is, once again, as you're hitting a higher ops level, you're hitting higher reputation levels, you need to be able to have the ships that can do those without totally crippling your ability to do things in the game. I mean, things are hard enough in the game with how much they ask us to do, right? You don't want to complicate that by going up an operations level or a reputation level if you don't have the ships that can fairly easily accomplish those dailies for you. So just something to keep in mind as you're going forward. The one thing that I think you want to also plan for as you're looking those 4 to 6 operations level or more ahead, you want to be thinking about your research. You want to be thinking about your base upgrades, your ship upgrades, and you want to save as much as you possibly can for the spend event. Now, we just had a treasury, that second treasury that came out, and that was a good resource for some people. I opted to skip it and waiting until this next month, see what comes out this next month. But I decided to skip it. But you'll get usually a lot of resources in that treasury that can help jumpstart you to meeting some of those things that you're trying to accomplish. Early on, like I said, I wasn't as good of a planner, but if you save for those spend events and you really focus on not always just completing it, but getting a good number of shards each spend event, then even the free-to-play or the mostly free-to-play can still get, if not all the shards, they can get most of the shards, I think, from those events. It takes patience, it takes planning, but in my opinion, I think it's worth it. You'll eventually outgrow your ships, but officers, except when Sculpted comes out with officers that negate the previous officers' value or abilities. Officers, as they say, are forever. You'll get a lot of value out of your officers many, many months and even years after you have maxed them. One example is I would give is 6 of 11. I still use 6 of 11 on a regular basis. I've been using 6 of 11 for years. Fantastic officer, whether he's on your bridge crew and providing the piercing in an armada, or below deck as providing stats for your ships. So there's various things to think about as you're going forward. I hope this is helpful. I hope this video has kind of sparked in you, if you haven't thought as much about this, about how you can take where you're currently at, look at the things you're trying to accomplish, you're trying to upgrade, you're trying to grow your station or your ships or whatever it is, and hopefully you can kind of look at it and say, this is where I want to be in 4 levels, this is what I need to do to get there, here's the things I need to save. Maybe you don't invest as much in your ships because you know that this ship is going to be outdated. Like, I'm not going to invest a ton into my Vorcha because I know that the Sanctus is not that far off, and if I do, then I'll be spending maybe rare materials on my ship that I could spend on my base to get to 56 when I'm ready. So that's the video. And I hope it's helpful. I hope it points you in the right direction if you haven't thought of this. Once again, if you have additional thoughts or comments, I'd love to hear them in the comment section below. I think it will also help other watchers of the videos. You can look through their comments and see if any more of the advanced players offer some more advanced tips to help you be even better than the things I've gone over. So once again, just providing a framework here. Just want to give you this basic idea of a concept that you can hopefully apply in your game, whether you're a low, middle, or high level player, to really focus on the things that are going to get you growing into that next level or to that next ship in the most effective, the most efficient way possible. Anyways, thank you so much and have a good day.